Talking points.
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 Talking points. Talking points.
Talking points.
This is Talking Points, the panel discussion program for Western Maine, devoted to topics drawn from stories which have appeared in Today River Valley, the video news feature program of the Androscoggin River Valley. I'm Phil Blampede, the producer of the program. We're coming to you from Bistro 151 in the Sudbury Inn on Main Street in Bethel, Maine. Let's meet our panelists. Lori Gilbert is the founder, editor, and publisher of Bethel Living, a magazine with in-depth articles about people, places, and events in the greater Bethel area and the western Maine mountains. Lori owns and operates Royal River Graphics in Bethel, where she creates websites and promotional and marketing materials for businesses throughout New England. Find out more at royalrivergraphics.com.
Steve White retired after 38 years operating Sunday River Inn and Cross Country Ski Center with his wife Peggy, served 34 years as a selectman in the town of Newry, and 23 years as a commissioner on the Maine Land Use Regulation Commission. Steve now serves on the boards of many local, statewide, and regional nonprofit organizations, working in areas including youth wellness, conservation, recreation, education, forest health, and community resilience. As for me, Phil Blampede, I launched the video feature show Today River Valley 3 years ago. It started on the internet and eventually got region-wide placement on WPME TV. My idea was to take the kind of community journalism found in local newspapers and translate it into a video program. Not only can you find the program on WPME, but you can watch it at any time at todayrivervalley.com. In this edition, the panel will be looking further at the question of homelessness and asking just how much can society do for people who won't help themselves. Then, the panel takes a look at the phenomenon of towns trying to pull out of the large school districts, just as it's happening all over Maine, and at whether Maine might just not be a good place to have large districts. Finally, we'll have a visit from Allie Smith, proprietor of Bistro 151, who will introduce the panel to aperitifs and fine wines that go perfectly with elegant cooking. Stay tuned.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining, and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
Make the Sudbury Inn your headquarters for your next trip to Bethel. Centrally located downtown, this charming 19th century inn offers accommodations from a full apartment with its own fireplace to deluxe two-room suites to single rooms. And you don't have to go far to find the best of Bethel, with fine dining in our main dining room, pub fare and live music in our popular Suds pub, and a bistro menu and bar in Bistro 151, which features light fare with a creative flair, lobster ravioli with a shrimp cream sauce, sweet pea and caramelized onion ravioli with a blue cheese sauce, blackened sea bass with a cucumber salsa, citrus glazed veal short ribs with an Asian sauce. The Sudbury Inn is family-friendly, can accommodate pets, and as the magazine Bon Appetit put it, is the perfect way to end a day in Bethel. Call today for more information.
In the April edition of Today River Valley, there was a story about homelessness in western Maine.
The story described the various services offered to the homeless, including housing that is attractive and clean, even though it's offered only on a temporary basis.
Is there a moral hazard, as they say, if you make it too easy to be homeless, you provide too many services that people who possibly could care for themselves will say it's easier just to sleep in the woods and go get a free meal every day?
Yes.
Yes.
Has that happened in Portland?
Well, we could talk about the panhandling situation in Portland, which is out of control.
And the people on the
That's
streets are upset with those folks.
The shop tenders too,
Yeah.
and the homeless.
But I mean, the homeless know
They're
that
taking
it's
from
a
the homeless.
scam, and that all the
Yeah.
homeless are being painted with the same brush and some of these guys aren't homeless. They're just
No, some of them are making a lot of money.
Yeah.
They're doing very well.
Right.
It's the Freedom of Speech Act, and I'm glad hasn't spread all over the rest of the state. Really.
I ran into a young man in Portland who works in the restaurant industry and is now fairly well off. He's got a good job and he considers himself comfortable. but when he was in his early 20s, he spent about 9 months homeless. And he said it's easy to do in Portland. You have 3 meals a day at the Preble Resource Center. You have a place to sleep, and when it's warm, you can sleep in the woods. And also, there's a culture. There are a lot of young homeless people in Portland, and they often will associate in groups, and they become friends, and so they'll join a group that sleeps in a certain place in the woods every night, and they all drink together, and they all go to the Preble Resource Center together. They even give them tents and sleeping equipment to sleep outside.
Right, yeah, and we provide that through the street ministry too. But there are rules that they have to follow. They can't come in for a meal if they've been drinking. Of course, they can sometimes get a meal to take out, but they won't allow them to come and be part of the society, if you will, that's having a meal together, breaking bread together.
So would you say in Portland that perhaps it's become a little too comfortable to be homeless?
That's what I've heard.
I wouldn't feel, it doesn't seem comfortable to me, but
Well-
but the services are certainly there. You don't have to go looking as much as you would up here. You just, at the appropriate moment, you shuffle down the street and you get checked into the.
So there probably should be, as in the Rumford Group Homes, as much effort put into not simply providing food, shelter, and items for these people, but also to addressing their deficits and requiring them to address the deficits themselves and become sheltered again on their own accord, and not have to fall back on the social services all the time.
Yeah, I think that's incumbent upon society. That's why I say we should be upping our game all the time. We've got to be. We can't just say, "Oh, well, they're here. We got to hand things out." We do have to. I think we are required to help them, but we have to help them to help themselves as well.
Well, I think there's also a resource question. I think society needs to help the homeless to the extent that there are resources available to do that. You don't want to cut the school budget in half in order to shelter a whole bunch of 45-year-old drunks.
No.
So you do as much as possible within whatever the resources there are. And at a certain point, if people continue to make bad choices and they're homeless and it's January and it's 10 degrees below zero, should they just be left to their own fate, or should society spend $1 million having people prowling the city's streets looking for sleeping people behind the dumpsters?
Well, I don't think we ever want to stand by and watch somebody die, but
Even if they've caused it, they brought it on themselves?
well, if that's their solid choice, that's what they want to do. They want to sleep out at 10 below zero, I guess that's their choice. Maybe.
Well, here's a kind of an example of what the value of life is. It's like airplane tickets. You could fly in an airplane that would never crash, but the ticket would cost $100,000. So we fly, we buy tickets for $300 in a plane that once in a while will crash, because on some level we've made that calculation. Same thing with automobiles. If you bought a $200,000 automobile, you probably never die in it. But if you buy a $5,000 used car, keep your fingers crossed. So, and it's perhaps the same thing in regards to the homeless. That there's only so much money to go into services of this kind, and if people keep doing things to put themselves in danger, at a certain point, the resources aren't sufficient to go out and save everybody, and you just have to say.
Well, it's
that's the
true,
way it
but
goes.
there's always underlying causes. So you keep talking about the 45-year-old drunk, and a lot of times the people that are drinking all the time are self-medicating. There's something, either a mental illness of some sort, generally, something that causes them to do that. The drugs thing is the same way. It's just a different drug, and that we find that going on more and more.
So is it my responsibility to pay $1,000 more in taxes so
No.
that someone can go out and find these people and
No.
shake them? And
Well, I
take
don't
them
know.
in
You're
and
doing it.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but not
we're
that much. I'm only spending
Well, it's
$50
really-
No, we're
on my
not. We're
taxes.
not. Yeah, we're not spending unlimited resources, and we're not spending millions of dollars. I think we need to make those decisions. Here's the pie. How much of the pie do we want to give to searching for homelessness? And as this heroin addiction problem grows, and we're faced with other challenges, we're going to see. We'll have to make some shifts in certain budgets to accommodate some of these problems.
Well, I think you can get the most bang for your buck with programs such as Rumford Group Homes, which is dealing with people who still are in a position to learn the skills they need to solve their problems. And that's particularly the population of younger homeless.
Talking Points. We'll be right back.
If you're a home or property owner, there's always something that needs fixing or upgrading. The answer is Construction Caterers for complete property maintenance and repair, providing carpentry, construction, masonry, handyman jobs, and property maintenance. From building an entirely new home to adding a deck to re-siding, roofing, exterior painting, brickwork, and replacement windows. No job too big or small, we cater to them all. Special this season, install 10 replacement windows, get the 11th at no charge. Memory Lane Vacations in Andover, Maine offers horse lovers a chance to have a vacation and bring their horse too.
Hi, my name is Deb Kerr. I'd like to welcome you to Memory Lane Vacations, Andover, Maine.
It's a unique place to stay that offers accommodations not only for people, but for their horses as well. And it's located right on 50 miles of beautiful trails.
It's very unique that you can actually bring your horses and stay here at Memory Lane with them and access 50 miles of beautiful trails right from the dooryard. It's set up to sleep 7. However, there is also an inflatable queen-size bed and a extra twin mattress, so I've had as many as 10 people staying here at one time. We have 6 box stalls that are available, and we have several electric fenced paddocks.
Memory Lane Vacations, booking now for summer and fall.
This is Connie Asno, and we look forward to serving you in our historical downtown Rumford restaurant.
Connie's Place, now open at 136 Congress Street, downtown Rumford on the island.
If your shoes don't feel right or your feet hurt, don't ignore the warning signs. Visit Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab in Livermore Falls, the leading provider of corrective shoes and accessories in Maine. Foot problems can lead to pain in the knee, hip, and back. At Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, we design footwear to relieve pain or discomfort from disease, overuse, or congenital conditions. In our retail showroom, there are 4 certified pet orthotists who provide your initial foot exam at no charge. All manufacturing of your custom footwear, orthotics, and braces is done on site.
Hi, I'm Bruce McDonald, president of Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, and I'd like to invite you to come to the most unique shoe store in Maine, where we are the foot comfort specialists.
Don't ignore that discomfort. Pine Tree Orthopedic Lab, open Monday through Friday 8 to 5, Saturday 8 to 2. At Dan's Automotive, you'll find reliable used cars in the $3,000 to $6,000 range. You get more car for less money. These are brands that are known for their reliability and long life, and each is mechanically updated, even including new timing belts when needed. Cars come with state inspection and 14-day plates. Come browse the lot at 625 Crescent Avenue in Rumford and grab your car before someone else does.
We bought our car at Dan's, and we're glad we did.
Dan's Automotive Repair and Sales, 625 Crescent Avenue, Rumford, Maine, 369-9302.
The thing about Pat's Pizza is that it's informal, but the food is really good. It's not just pizza. They make their own dough there, they make their own lasagna there, and it's a very comfortable place. You go in and it's a rustic post and beam interior. Portions are incredibly generous. Staff is friendly. You know, I like trying the microbrews. They have a selection of microbrews at the bar. They have a 6-page menu. It's you have to think a while before you make a choice. They have gluten-free specialties, including gluten-free carrot cake. They've been there for nearly 2 decades, and I think there's a reason why. It's a very pleasant place to find some really good food in a comfortable environment.
Pat's Pizza, it's not just pizza. Visit us soon on Route 2 in Bethel. Call ahead for takeout at 824-3637 and like us on Facebook.
Talking Points is sponsored by the Sudbury Inn. Lodging, fine dining and a lively pub in an historic inn, right on Main Street in Bethel, Maine.
In the May edition of Today River Valley, we have a story about how towns all over the state of Maine are withdrawing from large school districts. Many years ago, the state of Maine thought it would be more efficient and less expensive if larger school districts were created, consolidating smaller districts into larger districts. And for several years, there were rules in place that forbid towns from changing this consolidation, from withdrawing from the larger districts. Those rules were finally lightened, repealed, and towns jumped to take advantage all over the state of the opportunity to withdraw from their larger districts. The people in the towns who are withdrawing have many complaints about what it's like for a small town to be in a large district. But the initial idea was that the consolidation was actually going to improve education and lower the cost in Maine. Was that argument correct, or is consolidation a bad idea, do you think?
I think many towns are feeling that the consolidation was not worth it, and they're rethinking it, especially in Western Maine.
I think there's value, but this was a one size fits all. In our case, inside 44, there was no dance partner. They were looking at combining us with Rangeley, which is 65 miles away. Of course, the superintendent said that'd be great because he thought he could see himself having his office up on the height of land. He thought that'd be
Not a bad place to
but
be.
really, it just wouldn't work. It was either that or a school down around Portland. And,
Well, when Governor LePage came to Mexico, one of the things he said was that school costs are out of control. One of the reasons is that administrative costs are twice in Maine what they are in other parts of the country, and that the reason behind that was that the districts in Maine are so much smaller, and there's so many duplications of administrative services all over the state, as opposed to other.
Well, that's right. He found states out west that might have only 5 districts in the place.
Right. Yeah, so Florida, for instance, has an average school district size of 30,000. Why wouldn't a 30,000 student school district in Maine work?
Because Maine itself, the surface area of Maine is as large as all the other New England states put together. We have very low density, and so the geography is against us. And anything we do, anytime you try to have a statewide meeting, somebody's complaining about having to drive 6 hours to get to it.
And our school populations are declining as well.
Right.
So Steve and I were talking a little earlier about Newry wanting to withdraw from the local school union. And how did that start, Steve?
Well, originally it was because some of the parents and grandparents had the notion that they wanted to have more control. Their original concern was that since the school board membership was made up based on the population of the town, so a town next door would have many more votes than your town if you were a small town. Newry only has 330 people or something like that.
As I recall, the Newry pays 38% of the budget but has only 4% of the vote.
Right. And that they felt was a real problem, and the answer always is, well, you have the voice. We still have two school board members, so you have the opportunity to influence, but
Now, that was one thing. The people who want to withdraw say that use the statistics of they have representation 4.4% of the votes on the school board. How do you get 0.4% of a school board representative? Is this where Stumpy comes?
Get messy. Get messy.
Well, you just add up all the ones in favor. It's a really neat mathematical thing that they have to do every time there's a vote taken, because they have to figure out who voted where and what their percentage is, and work it out that way.
But this is silly, and there's the town of Newry has $1 million homes, many of them, so they're gathering a lot of tax money, and I don't understand. But there's only 22 students.
Yeah, the people that are paying the taxes are not the people who are
Right.
living in the town. So we only have 25. Well, at least last year it was 25.
At the cost
students.
of over $120,000 per student to attend.
If you divide it by the number of pupils, right.
So
If you
where
divide
does
it by
all-
dogs, it would come out differently. And you could divide it by anything you want.
So, Stumpy. So all of this tax money that's coming from these secondary homes, where does all that money go?
Well, first of all, we
Right.
have the lowest tax rate in any of the organized towns because of that. We don't really spend a lot of, most of it goes to schools, like
Well,
60% or more.
Seems like we should be able to take some of the tax money from those beautiful homes that people enjoy coming here and using them to educate our kids.
Well, that was the plan. And that's why it was set up that way.
Other than geography, what are the advantages and disadvantages of a town withdrawing?
Well, the education was supposed to be less expensive and more efficient in order to combine, but I think we're finding that it's not necessarily working out that way.
SAD 17 in South Paris figures because of the size of their district now, which was enlarged greatly, their buses travel 3,000 miles a week, so they go to California every week.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I have a friend who's a student from Upton, and he's got a 45-minute ride to school each day or so.
Oh, probably more than that.
Yeah, 50
my
minutes.
kids from Sunday River would ride
That's
that
one
far.
way.
Because but the other thing is that help, especially in Western Maine, that makes it more difficult. Is we all live in river valleys. We don't have vast areas of flat land with houses in them. So you have to drive up this river valley to the last student and come back down, and then go up the next river valley to the last student and come back. So that adds to the mileage, adds to the time, and the kids do spend a long time riding the bus.
But withdrawal sometimes, the communities that withdraw are sometimes surprised by the expenses that they wind up incurring by having to run their own system.
Such is the case with Andover, I think. Is that right? I think they're finding their expenses are greater than what they had expected them to be.
I don't think they figured in the maintenance costs, for one thing, of their aging building.
Well, there are a lot of hidden costs that if you come to the idea of running a school for the first time, a lot of things you might not realize. Andover got in trouble with transportation. They didn't have any clear plan for transportation when they first began. They finally worked that out. But one thing I understand that they were surprised by and didn't anticipate was the expense of software licenses. They wound up having to budget a significant amount of money for software licenses.
Right,
who would have thought about that unless you actually run a school before?
And all those licenses were under the district before.
Right.
And then they became their own, essentially their own district, so they had to.
Well, the Susan Beaudoin of the State Department of Education said that many units have, after withdrawing, have gone back to the state and said that they almost wish that they hadn't because the expense of running their own school turned out to be so high.
You have to have your own superintendent, your own business people. You have to probably have some of the staff that you shared with another school unit. You're going to have your own, or you're going to have to contract for services. All of those can cost more. You might have to operate your own transportation or contract for transportation. If you have a school, you'll have to provide child nutrition services. That's federal law. So there's a lot of costs that sometimes they don't know what they're getting into. And we are finding that there's a few units that have said to us, gee, I don't know if we would have done this if we had known how much it was going to cost. Because you're not sharing a whole bunch of costs anymore.
I think that Andover will probably see if they can't join up with another district. They probably won't come back to SAD 44, but they might go over to Rumford.
Talking Points. We'll be right back.
You wouldn't visit Washington, D.C. without seeing the White House, or New York without seeing the Statue of Liberty. So don't go by Mexico, Maine without visiting Dick's Restaurant on Route 2, the landmark of home-style dining with breakfast all day, dinner-sized lunch specials, and their famous fish chowder. Look for buffet dining on holidays and special occasions.
So come on in. Let us open new doors for you. After all, we are the people-pleasing agency serving all your real estate needs.
Excuse me, sir, are you getting a little shaggy around the ears but can't find time for a haircut? Well, now you can. At Lisa's Barbershop at 178 Main Street in Mexico, owner Lisa Shardlow specializes in quick haircuts. No appointment is necessary and there's rarely a wait. At Lisa's, the motto is cut and go.
Guys, it's great if the ladies think you're hot, but wouldn't you rather be cool in this weather? Cool off with a fresh new haircut here at Lisa's.
At Lisa's, all adult haircuts are $11, kids 10 and under are $8, and remember, kids get to pick a prize from the toy box. Open Tuesday to Friday, 8:30 to 5, Saturday, 9 to noon. During the production of this segment, proprietor Allie Smith of Bistro 151 and the Sudbury Inn treated the panel to a chicken dish called chicken roulade and offered advice on, as well as samples of, the right kind of beverages to go along with elegant cooking. The first was a traditional French aperitif called Lillet.
The Lillet is a very traditional French aperitif.
So does this also begin the digestive process? Is it gastronomic as well?
It's just enough to make your taste buds tingle a little bit and get those juices flowing before you start your meal.
So if someone were coming to dinner, this might be something that they would order in lieu of a before dinner cocktail.
Yes, so instead of having, say, a martini or something like that, it's just a little something.
Well, actually, this would probably work a lot better in terms of sharpening your palate than a martini, which is going to flatten your palate.
And that's exactly the way the French would say. If you go to a French restaurant in France and you have a martini or a gin and tonic, they are horrified because they say, well, that's just going to deaden your palate. You should have something that just gets you going because it's going to be good to come and you want to appreciate it.
To accompany the chicken roulade, Allie chose 3 wines, one from France, one from California, and one from Argentina.
Malbec is it's from the classic Argentinian region of Mendoza in Argentina. Malbec is very popular right now, and we sell a lot of this. Everybody really likes it.
And the California Chardonnay?
The California Chardonnay is from Edna Valley, which is in the central coast of California. It's in the very classic Californian style, very, very buttery, very flowery, very fruity. If you want to be technical about it, it's got a high level of malolactic fermentation, which is what produces that lovely butteriness. So if you were to compare the Edna Valley and the French Ardèche Chardonnay, the Ardèche Chardonnay still has elements of that butteriness and fruitiness, but it's got a little bit more acid, so it's just a little bit more steely. The other French wine was also a Chardonnay, but it was actually from the Ardèche region of the southwest of France. It's actually produced by a French house called Louis Latour. Louis Latour is a very, very famous name in Burgundy, which is the famous wine producing area, which is to the east of Paris. But he actually has branched out not only in the rest of France, but also all over the world. This particular wine, it's a really lovely wine. It's not very expensive at all, but for the amount of money you pay for it, it's a really, really good glass of wine.
This is the second time you've given us something that had goat cheese in it. Is there a reason why you use goat cheese all the time as opposed to other kinds?
Goat cheese is one of those ingredients. It goes well with very, very many things. And while we don't use a particularly strong or aged goat cheese, it's just got a little tiny tang about it, which just goes so well with so many other tastes, and it just gets your taste buds again going a little bit, and it's just really delicious.
Talking points.
Talking Points, of course, is based on the program Today River Valley. If you've never seen Today River Valley, what are you waiting for? You can find it at todayrivervalley.com on the internet, or you'll be able to see it on WPME TV in this time slot next week. Today River Valley and Talking Points alternate on the weekends between 11:30 p.m. Saturday night and 8 a.m. Sunday morning. Take a look. Well, that's it for the June edition of Talking Points. Our thanks to our sponsor, Allie Smith and Bistro 151, for the location and for the great food and wine. Stop by Bistro 151 this summer and enjoy their great menu and wine list for yourself. This is Phil Blampede, host and producer of Talking Points. For myself and for panelists Lori Gilbert and Steve White, here's wishing you a warm and enjoyable June, and we'll see you in July.